So I'm back again. It's been several days, and the reason why is very painful, but I need to tell you why. Start off with a simple story. I wanted to push some stuff through just to files and have them, I think, concatenate. And I went down this journey of, oh wow, folder structures, logging, command lines, wow, bunch of stuff. I'll go over really quickly as much as I can. I want to say it was painful, but it wasn't. I made a choice, and you should always do this early on in a project to decide what kind of stuff I want to pick up, what kind of stuff I want to let down. So the stuff I wanted to pick up was stuff I thought would be around for a while, and the stuff I wanted to drop was things that got in my way of delivering value. At the very beginning, before I'm getting ready to set things up, it's the most important time to pick up whatever tools and frameworks you need, because it just gets messier from here. So now's the time to clean up the problem. So you can see here, I set the folder structure. I've got, based on the book and other things here, not a lot to go over. There's basically, there's a system behavior and, behavior structure and supplemental folders underneath a system, a meta, and business folder. That's all in the book. I won't explain it, but I will explain the fact that I actually came in and decided to do a user story out of all this, because one of my users said, hey, dude, you need to eat your own dog food. If you're going to be talking about user stories and stuff, you need to write one. So there's a file in here called 2018-10 master model. If you go there, you can see right here, I've got user stories. My first two user stories, which are process files without doing anything, which I think I can do. Woo! And then process files and concatenate by file name. Also, just basically does the job of cat. Both these fairly easy, which we talked about earlier, but this is actually written in the format that I would like the program to process. So the program should be able to go through this, process these files, and make story cards and all the other stuff. So anyway, that's my stories. And then I started down the thing, okay, so I need to make a command line program. So I picked an EA program. Like I said earlier, I made 3 pieces. I'm gonna go to system structure here. So I had 3 pieces. I've got EA for easyam, the compiler. EA lib is the domain model. I've got EAR for easyam reporting, which I thought was kind of cool. And EAR test, which tests that, of course. And then I've got an EA test that tests the compiler. So 5 programs. I split these up because this is my 3rd shot. I'm willing to take some architectural risk I didn't do before, because last time I tried to stick the compiler and reporting all in one thing. It was a mess. It was just, there was stuff here and there. I mixed in reporting code with the other code. I know from experience that they're separate things. So 2 compilables, EA reporting, EA compiler. And then they both have to have tests, which makes 4 within the library. Started down to, okay, so I want to make a program called EA. Let's do the first folder. And I popped in, I opened up program.fs, and I had domain and everything. And wow, so there was a lot of things that happened at this point. So first of all, I want to write out whatever the file is. And I don't want to write a file, I want to write it out, right? Because I want this to work like Unix. One of my supplementals here is work like Unix. Be fast, run anywhere. So I want to pipe stuff into this thing and have it pipe stuff out. And the person using it really shouldn't know it's a .NET app or how any of that stuff at all. All I want to know is basic, I guess, piping. So how do you pipe stuff in and out? Well, gee, the thing is that everybody and their brother, including the .NET tool, wants to write out to console out. So if you do that, then you're going to end up writing out little warning messages, my mom ate my homework, all kinds of stuff that people write out. You end up in your stream going out. So the first thing I did, which is actually the last thing I coded, was come in and swap the consoles out here. I mean, you see in lines 30, 32, I've got all this console swapping around. So basically, I'm going to write to standard error inside the code, and then standard error will actually come out to where the user wants to go. And then if there's an error in the program, it'll, of course, a bad error will also come out to standard error, but I'm hoping to catch all of those. And if I don't, then my user should complain. So first thing I had to do is swap out all the stuff. Second thing I had to do is decide on how I want to do testing. So I went over to EA test, And wow, so there's a whole bunch of cool testing stuff out there. Best one I thought was Expecto. People have told me to try that. So I got Expecto. It looks really sweet. Tests its values, awesome. Parallel built in. I mean, property based. It's all good. It's like, oh gosh, yeah, very very cool stuff. Um, and then it was like, well, but it writes out the same console, right? So then I'm back to this console problem, and the guy that does Expecto says you should use the loggery library because that's what he used for console logging. So okay, so now I'm over to loggery, and I'm downloading loggery, and loggery looks even cooler than Expecto. I mean, it's logging, it logs to everything. Oh, geez, it is. And I'm not saying this facetiously. They're amazing pieces of code, both of them. Um, so then I'm using that and it's not compiling and I'm having problems. And I don't know. One of the big problems I had early on with this new tool is I didn't know what VS Code would look like when it's sick, when it's not working right. So here we got little squiggles here on the console or whatever. That doesn't mean it's broken. That just probably means the language compiler's barfing somehow or another. Language compiler barfs quite a bit here. I don't know why, don't care. In Visual Studio, it seems to work rather quickly. Like I said, I don't know. I do know that I ran into an issue of trying to do that old thing where you type the noun and then the dot and you're exploring around through the code trying to figure out what the hell you're going to find. That worked much better for me in Visual Studio than it did here. I love this interface better. I love the idea of controlling things better here, but I'm still a Visual Studio fan, as it turned out. I didn't know that. So I went to loggery, looked around with that, and oh boy, that was cool. And I had some problems with that. Well, loggery uses Hopac. So I went to Hopac. Hopac, even cooler. I mean, awesome stuff. He's doing, I think, software transactional memory, lots of threadless thread stuff. It brings out the He-Man programmer in all of us, but it still didn't work. So I spent a day kind of thrashing around. Finally figured out that the problem was that all of these guys are currently writing this as we speak, as opposed to picking up, I don't know, Newtonstall.json or something. It had been out for 6 months. It's stable. It's not that these guys aren't stable. It's just that they're all moving targets. So I had to come back through, make a choice over whether or not I wanted to kind of plug into these moving targets. Decide, hey, why not? It's a pet project. These all look like good tools I want to recommend in the future. So, hey, count me in. I'm jumping on the bandwagon. I don't know where this boat's going, but I'm going with you. So then I got the latest version of loggery, latest version of Expecto, started setting the files up, and it came a lot much quicker after that. The only problem I ran into was the namespace issue. You can see at the top here. Let me bring up my one of my common files. EA type extension, yeah. As you can see here, look at this. I got like Hopac, loggery, blah, blah, blah. I'm just kind of dumping stuff in. Then I had to dump it in again. And it's a namespace issue in that if I'm looking for a method over here, it needs to go kind of like Swiss cheese. It goes through and finds that method. And over here, it finds that one. If you're a C++ or C programmer, done a lot of complex programming, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe a rebuild a facade that's on top of all their facades. I don't know. Don't care. It works right now. It looks like crap. I'm happy with it. This is where you decide to give up. Which is a good choice. I brought in a bunch of stuff from my previous stuff. I've got, basically I've got 3 or 4 files in a system folder. That's stuff I plan on using over and over again, no matter what the app. Then I've got 3 or 4 files in my application common folder up here, which is stuff I plan on using across this application. If I write other applications, it'll go here. That's because if I write chains of programs like in a microservices format, I want them all to talk to one another. And so data formatting becomes critical, validation, all that stuff. So put them all in one spot and use a strict type system to make sure you're not writing out anything that you can't consume. Yay, this as opposed to doing some sort of god-awful framework library, which I've seen teams do. Sucks. Okay. There we got EA. Where are my type extensions? There's type extensions. So here I have type extensions. This is the first thing besides the loggery facade that comes in. It basically creates a new loggery. I think it's the log manager instance. I'm just throwing stuff out the console right now. I plan on heavy use of logging. I'm not really sure if that makes any sense or not, but it's a cool tool. Why not play with it? Every module has its own logging instance. And so at the verbose setting, the way loggery works is you just throw crap out on various levels, and then you can consume what you want later on. So on verbose, I log the module enters, module exits, method enters and exits, and then I'll go to the debug level for like things I need to see where the code's running, maybe some of the smaller methods, and then you go down from there. And then I will probably set up my own custom logger for complex methods, but I shouldn't have complex methods because that's no good, right? Okay, I have an application logger, testing logger, lots of red here. I see one of the things here, I've got the spaces at 4. I realized about halfway through that I really wanted spaces at 2, so half the crap's got spaces at 4, half its spaces at 2. Rather easy to fix here. You can just highlight everything. You go to spaces 4, you pick up here, you switch it to 2, and then when you go to the top, yeah, it's all magic. Just save it. I don't think you have to save it. Wonder how it knows that. Blah, 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 blah. So there's a loggery. There's my logger modules. This is my config stuff. That's from that blog Like a Stupid Person. I'm not going to go over that. Okie dokie. Stuff you guys, you domain-driven design folks, might want to see. Everything's going to be type restricted, which is what you guys love so much, at least at the outside. And this gets back to sort of how to code stuff, right? So I know the outside of this code, since this is version 3, I know exactly how I want it to function. So I can tighten that in, files talking to one another, how each outside top level method works. I got that. Nail it in here. I nail it in here with the types. And then if some programmer were to pick up my code later on, he would be constrained by this not to be able to write bad code, which is good for him and me, her and me. I put in a bunch of comments here. This is basically for you guys in case you're interested. So I have types that lock in what the functions can do with what other types. Way cool, awesome stuff. More comments. Okay, then I'll load in the configuration. There's a load config from the command line because I have to take parameters. All that stuff's standard. So that's all that's the app common stuff. Persist. I think there's nothing here right now. Lenses, if you know what a lens is, it's awesome. But we're not using the lens yet. It'll probably be used by the reporting module. Yes, I'm going to share that. I'm thinking the reporting module may end up just writing code into this shared library, which is fine. It's just that the job itself, even this is cool, even if the code's 99% the same, the job of reporting is different than the job of compiling, so it needs to be a separate executable. Executables aren't related to the amount of code, unique code they have. They're related to doing a single unique job. Unix philosophy, a whole bunch of stuff here. Probably boring the hell out of you guys. All right, okay, so that's all the app common stuff. Next level down is the application itself. Every application has a utilities file and a program file. I know this because I've done this a bunch of times with this application. And utilities file, right now, let's start with program. Program comes in, it logs itself, it swaps out the swaps out the consoles. I have a kind of a standard format for logging. The only thing program.fs should do is bare bones metal stuff. Okay, because it's once again, I'm outside of the onion here. All I want to know is, can you set threads and pipes up or not? If you can't, we're done. There's nothing to tell the user, just go away. If you can, then we can start talking about actually trying to make the user happy. That happens down in the utils, and which is a method called new main. And over new main, I've got basically 3 functions that I'm quite proud of that do nothing. Input stuff, do stuff, and output stuff. I think that the beauty of this is that they describe what they do, and then by locking them down by types, as we talked about before, it actually exactly describes what they're going to do. So they're actually really, really well specified. Their names just suck, and I would argue that their names don't suck that much because that's really what they do, and that's common across the stack. So down here in main, the real main, set up the logging, log that I'm in and out, and the phone's ringing. Not a lot here. The interesting thing here that actually, I guess, was sort of a half hour kind of kill time sink was threading. F# does threading very well, and they set up a console app here to actually do threading, because you just want to throw logging stuff out to a thread. You don't want to consume your primary CPU, your primary thread with logging. Same thing for testing. You want to test on as many threads as you can. Problem is that on a console app, your paradigm is not like a web app or somewhere else. You're kind of running through sequentially and you're ending. So the thing is, okay, so I set up the shim, started to work, and then it just kind of hung there. Just like nothing happened. And I was like, what the hell? And I realized, hit Control-C, it would stop. Then I started looking at the code. It's like, okay, so he's writing code for a console app, sure, but he's writing code for the sample code was for a console app that's just going to sit there and wait for stuff to come in to log. So I had to pick up a freaking, what do you call that guy? The cancellation token, and set up. Actually, the sample code was called in reverse order. It was much fun was had by all. Got it all working. Well, as can be expected. So it's all kind of all here. There's all the files. I've showed you sample code. What else I got? I guess I can make it run. The thing actually runs. It runs. Let's see here. There we go. Copy relative path. And then we go CD. Paste that Rascal in. There we go. So I want to go .NET run. Okay. And then I want to go hyphen hyphen. And then I want to type that to foo.txt. Okay. So .NET Run runs the current project in that folder, which is EA. It won't make any exe for you for reasons I don't want to go into, but it makes sense. I'm a mixed mind about that. Anyway, runs the DLL. Then I have to use the magic hyphen hyphen to show .NET that, oh, by the way, I'm sending parameters here to my program, not to .NET Run, because now I've got kind of two programs on the same command line, and they obviously don't want to do the parsing like Unix, as I saw decades ago. So we have to do our own little thing with double hyphens. Here we go. Run that. This is where we say some things that, oh, okay. Oh, geez. Come on. Okay, so CD. ST. Yeah. Okay. All right, there we go again. Then we go source. And if you're asking, could I make this even more complicated? I probably could. The reason that my directory structure is structured the way it is so that when I start running the tool, it can deliver things to various folders, and I can organize the result of the tool. Anyway, there's all the files. Let me go back up and run that thing again here. Blah, blah, blah. Here we go. Woohoo! Another thing I learned was every time I typed .NET Run in, it recompiled my app, even if the files didn't change, which made me very sad. Reasons for that too, and so what I ended up having to do is when I go to test, I'll have to tell it not to recompile. There's a special command line to say run but don't compile. There we go. So it runs. It did my debug logging, and then if I go back and look at what's in here, I can do cat foo. Like this. Yes, and cat foo says this is your file, isn't it exciting? And then I get all of the build stuff that came in from the thing, which I didn't really want. So that's fixable, not fun, but fixable. So that's the first pass of the code. The cool thing here, the thing I focus on, which I know you guys probably don't, is the fact that these this master model's kind of setting up. I've got my user stories. My user stories are connected. There's a spec for what I'm writing. I'll put a link in my blog. Please go to the spec, kind of see what it's a very simple spec. And so that's it for phase one, or this first little chunk. To review, I started on the story. I failed. It was my first story, so that's fine. And what I did was decide to adjust the system so that things would happen easier in the future. I could log, I could do multi-threading, so that I could fail faster. First few stories, I expect to keep going through these meta issues, but I'm still pushing to try to get that story out. There you go. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.